The topic is data-driven insights to enhance learning effectiveness. I came across a report from McKinsey. It's a 2023 report that says organizations that use data analytics for their workforce strategy, entailing skilling and reskilling, are 2.5 times more effective than organizations that do not. Data analytics help you to recognize the skill gap, find the correct learning pathways, and implement it. To that point, my first question to the panelists is a common question, and we'd like to take one insight from each one of you. How do you use data analytics to accurately identify and address the evolving training needs of your workforce? It'll be great if you share an example as well.
I'm very glad that you started with this question because I feel that the data we are talking about here is just not limited to learning. It is much more. It is the overall talent data. It is the data from projects. It is data from performance management and so on. So when we look at the data entirely, it makes much more sense to use those trends which are coming out of it. I'll just take an example how we use that. So the problem statement we had was people, and I come from Publicis Sapient, which is IT consulting firm. And we are the DBT partners, digital business transformation partners for our clients. So the problem statement was that our people were not able to crack client interviews, right? Client interviews, specifically in the industry of financial services, where most of our engineers, senior engineers, they are interviewed by the client before they go on a project. We looked at the data. When we looked at the data, it was just not, what they are learning or how they are doing. It was, there were some new hires, so data from their hiring pro forms, like, what are the skill gaps we saw there? Is that affecting, what they're doing in the interview or what they're speaking about? So looking at the complete data, we figured out that there were personalized, very individual skill gaps, right? Which was not getting covered by the learning programs we already had for that career stage or that role. So we had to devise very personalized learning paths for these people. And we had to give them an experience to go through a mock interview, not just one, but a series of them before they get ready for the final interview. So it was like a learning intervention which had a lot of kind of self-study and then a lot of experiential kind of hands-on sessions. What happened? We started with a 20% success kind of metrics. People were able to, crack those interviews. Two things, the clients were happy. The candidate was super happy, right? Because that's the kind of experience they got while they were actually in the interview, and that just helped us kind of many folds. The engagement, the happiness quotient, all of that. So I think that's how, just one example on how we can use data analytics to kind of turn it around for the organization as well as the employees.
Interesting. Vinay, your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Pooja. Well, I'm coming from the other side. As part of UNext Learning, we implement those training programs. We partner with big enterprises. So what we have seen is, more while we are executing the program itself, we have brought in an element of a pre-assessment survey that we do. It's not just about any generic pre-assessment, but the insights that you can get from a cohort's background, from what their strengths are, that helps you to identify what kind of depth in those training programs that you can take them through. But even during the program, right, the engagement that you can measure, that is very, very important. Now, there are folks, especially we do a lot of fresher boot camps, kids coming from, college grads coming from tier 2, tier 3. We saw that there is more of engagement that they need. You can't have one size fits all, whereas those who are coming from a tier 1, they need to be kept active. We had a deep analytics done as to why somebody is engaging and why somebody is not. What we saw was that sitting time to attend a virtual session, was low, attendance was low. But the moment you give case studies, they are big time onto it, right? But on the other hand, some of the folks who are a little shy, right? They need to open up. They were participating more. When there was a one-on-one engagement with a mentor that we assigned, there was more willingness for them to come on board and try and, also start and submit few assignments, become more active. So a lot of these data points on the go help us. And finally, we've done, for one of the programs, towards the end, through analytics, you get to understand who's good in what, right? The natural strengths, because data science, data engineering is like a horizontal. There is a modeling part, there is a coding part, there's a storytelling part, there is a business understanding part. Now you get the horizontal, but if your natural strength lies in storytelling and somebody's lies in coding or somebody else is very good in modeling, right? You assign those kind of projects and you do a big favor by doing that because you're matching their strengths. So whole analytics, deep analytics, pre, during, just to ensure engagement, post, to ensure that the right fitment into the right projects and if there is anything needed. And that's all done through technology, thanks to, the traditional AI and the current generative AI. But, that's something which I wanted to share.
Pooja, how do you do it?
Sure, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Am I audible to everyone? Yeah, okay. I'll probably give you a bit different perspective. So for us at Fidelity, I see it happening at 4 levels, and I would hope that the first 2 levels, all of us or most of us are already using it when it comes to data analytics. The usual learning matrix, how many people, how many hours, all of that is fine, and basis which we can also almost have a bit of standard learning plan. So that's given, that's level 0 for me. Now looking at the next level, wherein some of our content providers are really good in their analytics, and I'm sure, for example, LinkedIn, Pluralsight, we use them a lot. They offer such great analytics, and again, that's the second level that I'm talking about, where we've been using them to identify specific hotspots for a particular skill set, looking at the growth of skill levels for variety of roles that we have. And it has really immensely helped. How do you make use of that data? That's up to you as a learning person. That is second, that's given. And I'm sure, as I said, most of us potentially are using it. Now the third and the interesting level, which is really using NLPs, and now the fourth level, which is causal learning, those are the areas, in my view, are going to be picking up more. We've not started with the fourth level, which is causal AI. We are exploring NLP in some areas and not all. So a use case that potentially will interest you is our client servicing team. They take a lot of client calls, and by the way, we are into mutual fund business or wealth investments. So there are a lot of call center executives who would take calls. Now, we've observed there have been a lot of challenges in how the call center executives were taking calls, but we were not able to nail down what are the exact problems. Is it a product knowledge? Is it functional know-how of process? Is it communication? Are they not able to hold good conversation? We were not able to nail it down. Of course, the old ways of buddying up, listening to the calls, all of that is not scalable. We all know that. And that's where the natural language processing, creating models around it, is something that we recently started to explore. And it has started to give us good results to say that these are the skills, these are the people, these are the high proficient people, these are low proficient people, and it also tells us that what is the criticality or severity of the calls or the skills, the proficiency level of the skills, basis which it allows us to go back and create a very specific customized learning plan for people. It may very well be a learning intervention, a full-fledged course, or it may very well be a coaching mentoring session. So that is something I'm really, really very excited about it. Results are yet to be seen, but the initial reading is that it's going to help in a lot more ways. The last one, which potentially we may talk next year, which is causal AI, is looking at what if I had introduced a learning intervention a year ago, my call data or how my clients would have responded to my calls would have changed. Or was learning not a problem, was hiring a problem in such case? So it is almost going back, looking at the past and almost thinking, if I had introduced this learning intervention, would it have helped me? Yes or no? So I'm really excited about this, but as I said, 4 levels. First 2 I'm hoping everyone is using, but the 2 is really the future.
This has been amazing insights, and we've had so much energy even in the first 10 minutes of this session. So, I understand today every company is first a learning organization. Whatever your purpose is, whatever your business objective is, first, are you a learning organization or not? Because that has become a key purpose for any organization. Now, going back to the topic of data analytics, I understand there is abundance of data available. So as L&D leaders, how do you identify which data points are critical for you to drive insights for your learning strategy? Disha?
So I'll just start with a very basic understanding, which I think everyone, whoever is a learning professional should have, right? Whenever we are creating a learning program, it needs to be tied to a business outcome, right? And that's where your data becomes interesting then. And we need to take enough, we need to put enough practices in place and enough processes in place that we are able to actually show the ROI from that program in some way or shape. So, and I'll just talk about one example where we saw, and how we took the data and what we converted it into. I'll just kind of talk through an example. So, yeah, as I was saying, data is across, and I'm not talking about learning data, the 1 and 2, but a bigger frame. Hiring, staffing, competency, skill, performance, all of that data coming together, giving that one view of a person, right? Now, what happens is, what we saw around maybe 3 years back was we saw skill gaps, right, in people of a certain role, certain career stage or title, and that was a trend, right, in a particular capability. So what happened from there was the competency and skill framework and the skill taxonomy was built from there. Because what we realized looking at the data was people were not clear on what are the skills they need to have at their level, right? What are the skills they need to exhibit to become successful in the organization? What is that will help them get those skills, right? So we said we need to first answer that question and make the experience for our people much better in the organization. And that's where the whole skill taxonomy got made. We made a complete competency framework, and the next step was to linking the learning framework with it, because it is very, very important. You can have skills floating around, but if you don't know how to bridge those skills is where the problem starts. So I think what I want to say is, it's not that you pick up a data to frame a learning journey or a learning program. You can actually build your talent strategy on it. You can actually build a much bigger strategy which will help the organization and elevate your employees' experience. So I think that's something. So it's not just one data point, but it's just, you know, you look at the data in a way which will drive the business outcome. I think that's the best.
Very interesting. And you know, in this era of hyper personalization, it is only through data insights that we can customize and personalize learning journeys. To that point, it is very challenging. So Pooja, my question is that how challenging or what challenges do you face as a leader when you're using data insights to design your learning strategy?
I'll probably pick up from where Disha left in her first comment as well, that we as learning professionals, do we understand our own data? That is the first challenge. Or do we have a very myopic view of looking at just courses, hours, etc., etc.? That is the first challenge. The second is, do we understand our own ecosystem? When we talk about learning ecosystem, there are a variety of platforms, tools that are available, I'm sure, with all of you. But do the systems talk to each other? Most likely not. And that's the biggest problem. So if the systems are not talking to each other, that's the biggest problem. And do we own that? Those are our systems. Do we own that? And the third problem really is that as L&D professionals, do we understand the future of data? I spoke about in my previous statement that we are looking at NLPs, we are looking at causal AI. Do we understand what is it that we want from data? So these three challenges, I believe, are the biggest ones. And also, when we talk about data, it's also not around an employee, I think we should look at. Do we understand what kind of data transformation that's happening in our organization? It is such a must, such a must. If we don't appreciate what's happening in the organization around data, what is it that we should know about the data? I think it will fall flat. And then, of course, the second point where I said that we are great in bringing new tools, LXPs, contents, MOOCs, whatnot. But if you're not making sure right at the beginning where we are kind of introducing a new tool in the organization to say that, does it talk to my other HRIS systems or other tools? If not, then that's a big loophole in my view. And third, really, I think we all need to invest in our own knowledge education to make sure we understand and we absolutely deeply understand what data means, where it can lead me to, what are the potential possibilities through which I can mine some great insights which can help me define my learning strategies and drive the whole transformation program around talent. We're talking so much about talent here.
Yeah, sure.
So just adding to the last point, Pooja, you said, data literacy for the learning team is a big must now. It was a good to have maybe 2 years back, but it is like a must now. You cannot, and just imagine, we are just talking about understanding the basic data, and we are now, we have come to a stage where we're talking about putting AI models on top of it. So if you don't understand the basic data and you don't have the basic data literacy, then where will you go from there? So I think that's one point I think everyone should definitely make sure it's happening in their teams.
The last question, Vinay, for you is, predictive analytics can forecast future trends. How do you balance those with predictions with the need of adaptability and flexibility in your learning strategy?
Yeah, so I'll kind of give a different dimension here. Data tells us that these are the technologies we know which will rule. This is what my business is looking forward to. But then, when it comes to hardcore actually implementing that, there is a lot of resistance, right? The biggest thing that we struggle with is, as L&D professionals, we all agree, is nominations. You schedule a program and there are hardly people coming in, right? But you know that it is very important for the organization. So how do we address that? Now, there are corporations which have done, it is also tuned to how do I be flexible, how do I adapt? Of course, a lot of it goes back to culture. You can take the horse to the pond, can't make it drink, yes, but you can give salted oats to create that hunger. So data points are different, but how is my analytics with respect to my culture? Have I built in a learning ecosystem, or am I going in a very structured route of pushing down learning from the top, or am I creating islands? Am I creating, have I democratized content creation within my organization? Because if you look at outside, all of us have taught our kids, as kids grow up, they go to a physics wala and immediately you can learn something, right? And it is such a relevant content. So coming back here, my data tells me that I need to upskill, but am I creating that culture where I can learn from different sources? That is number one. But within my organization itself, we have created entrepreneurs, right? We have created people who can evangelize. There are organizations where they tag it. I know mechanical engineering organizations where this tagline is KG to PG. You can come as a KG, like a diploma holder, but we create an ecosystem where it can go all the way up to postgraduate. In fact, with Fidelity themselves, we do a program which is like a flagship program where there is alumni created. So that culture, that innocence, because learning requires innocence. So I need to get back to that innocence. So how will I get back to that innocence is when there's a cohort, there's alumni built in, and I also have a manager buying, right? So if my manager says that I'm from this batch of this particular program, not just from this university or so, right? Automatically, the tone is set for more and better learning. So that is what we see as a change which has to be brought in the L&D fraternity.
Wonderful points. Any closing thought, Pooja?
Sure. I think it's wonderful to see a lot of people who are interested about learning. You are the flag bearers along with us, of course. We can suggest what's happening, what's working for us, what's not working for us. And I think a lot of what we said, there are a lot of challenges and it's not all rosy picture. But I'll go back to what I said is go back, invest in yourself, understand data because data is key. Data is definitely key. Look at your learning ecosystem, make sure that you understand your data. And look at it much more from a holistic point of view. So 3 learnings from me, I guess.
Disha, any closing thought from you?
I think I'll just add one point to that. And I think you will have to have allies in the system. Whenever you're taking that data journey, you need to have leadership who will understand what you're trying to do, the outcome you are trying to drive, and should see value in that. It is very, very important. You can start your data project, but you don't have allies, no one is going to use that data. So it is very, very important that you build allies, you give that confidence to your leadership that this is important and take on that journey from there on.
So today learning is no more good to have, but it's a must have. And data analytics is the compass that ensures that you are going in the right direction. I think with that, we can take a couple of audience questions.
We're actually short on time and we do not really have the time to take any questions right now.
Sure. So we'd close this discussion, and I'd just like to say that, initially we grew up hearing curiosity kills the cat, but today it is all about curiosity skills the cat. So keep your curiosities high, keep learning, keep growing. Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists.